Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of NRL Nostradamus. Dicko, we are previewing the Panthers, the Dragons, and the Rabbitohs before our last preview episode next week with the Roosters, Warriors, and Tigers. So stay tuned for that one. Mate, before we get stuck into it, let's give a shout out to our two major sponsors, Create and Grip Socks. If anyone hasn't been on their website, www.cr8.sydney, give them a shout out, mention our name. They'll look after you. We've got their merch on, good gear, whether it be for business, corporate, sporting club, school, you name it, they'll look after you. When it comes to grip socks, we're talking GRIPZ SOCKS. Don't be fooled. There's plenty of companies out there. These are the best quality socks you can put on your feet. Amazing grip. Perfect for if you're doing Pilates, whether it be sport related. If you just don't want to slip, if you want a bit of extra grip, get on board with Grip Socks. Use our code Nostra20 at checkout to get a whopping discount. Now, Dicko, the
Yes.
Penrith Panthers, the reigning four-peat premiers, my boys, I don't know how I'm feeling about this season, mate. We have lost some formidable talent in our squad. Yet again, James Fisher-Harris, Jerome Luai, and Suni Taruva are the main, I guess, big names that have left the club. We've signed Isaiah Papali'i and Blaze Talangi, which will be great additions to the club long term. How do you see the Panthers faring this season? Have they still got what it takes to go 5 in a row, or are they in a bit of strife?
No, I wouldn't say they're in a bit of strife. I think that's probably a bit harsh. I would say this might be their most challenging season, considering the losses that they've sort of had.
Mm,
They've lost players before, but the caliber of losses this season and at once,
mm,
I feel like might really have an effect on how they go this season. I'm not prepared to write them off. I'm also not as sort of buoyed in terms of how they're going to finish the
mm.
season. I don't know. I'd like to see them how they go in trial games and especially the first game of the season.
Yes.
The one positive, and I was thinking about this before actually, the one positive that they have is that if you think about the last probably 2 seasons, Nathan Cleary actually hasn't played a lot of football
Mm, mm.
because of injury. So that is probably a good sign for them, like a
Yeah.
positive for them. Whereas
Plus
other
the Origin
players,
players as well.
yeah,
And
yeah. So other players like Yo and Dylan Edwards and Liam Martin, these guys have played a lot of footy over the last 3 4 years,
mm,
like a lot of football. So at some point in time, I feel like it's going to come back to bite them. But I mean, I didn't think they were a chance last year, and they ended up winning the competition. So I'm not going to go down and say they're not a chance this year. I feel like they are. I feel like they'll be there or thereabouts.
yeah.
Whether they have the squad depth this season is sort of the big thing and the big talking point.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit like with Jerome Luai leaving when Api Coruscant left. And I was really sort of worried there. Obviously, we've gone on to win a couple more premierships, but I look, Mitch Kenny came from nowhere and has been solid without being outstanding. Is there a six that's going to come in? It's not a position where you can be solid without being outstanding, unfortunately.
Mm.
In that six role, I think if that is the case, Penrith may be a little bit too one-dimensional and predictable. Going to Cleary 90% of the time, at least with Jerome Luai, he almost unlocked Luai and vice versa. I think Dylan Edwards is going to, I guess, be involved a lot more as a result. Well, he's going to have to if they're going
Mm.
to reach the heights that they have done previously. They
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, I guess the bit that concerns me is not their system because we know they've got an extremely strong system
Mm-hmm.
defensively and, they're probably one of the fittest teams in the comp, if not the fittest team in the comp.
Yeah.
But do they have those X factor players now to break open a game? Because Spencer Linu was that off the bench. Stephen Crichton was that at centre. Jerome Luai was that. Kickow was that. Coruscant was that. They're all gone now.
Mm.
Who's going to step up? That's the big question.
Yeah. So the question mark, as you said, is if a team, now this is a big if a team can shut down your Edwards and your Cleary, and I mean keep them quiet for games,
Yeah.
where are the points coming?
Mm.
Okay, they were such a threat when Luai was there because you had threats both sides of the field. I definitely think the Blaze Talangi signing is a signing for the future. I'm not expecting a huge, like a great breakout season from him. I think he'll be
Mm.
solid without being great. I've got question marks over him personally. But yeah, I don't know. Let's say Cleary gets injured again. I don't know
Mm.
where they go from there because I
Yeah,
don't know whether
that's
they've addressed the Luai leaving well, if
yeah.
that makes
Well, I
sense.
think I think given Liam Martin, Jerome Luai, Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, uh, Liam Martin, Dylan Edwards,
Hmm.
all sort of out through injury slash origin last season. They won a handful of games. I remember distinctively they beat the Chooks at Allianz last year with a
Hmm.
second grade side,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and quite convincingly for that matter.
Yep.
Snyder is still there. He's,
Yeah, he's
sort of
solid.
the solid go to. I just don't know whether they, and according to Ivan Cleary's press conference on the weekend, prior to the trial game, read into it what you will. It looks like Jack Hole is actually going to be first man up there in the six role. I don't know. As a supporter of the club, I would almost go conservative and go Schneider Cleary and just
Mm.
lock those two in. At least you're going to get solid defense or solid enough defense. You're going to have kicking on both sides, similar style of footy on both sides. Snyder runs it a little bit, Cleary runs it a little bit without overdoing it. And let's see what the outside backs can produce. If that doesn't work, let's try and grind out a few results because start of the season is hard. I think they go Sharks, followed by I can't remember, then Storm. So it's
I
not
mean,
an
yeah,
easy start.
yeah. I mean, they're going to be there or thereabouts. I don't think you have to worry, or Penrith supporters have to worry about them making the top eight. I think that's a lay down in the Zaire, really. I feel like that's going to happen, but
Mm.
I feel like there's some questions over.
Yeah, where's the weakness?
Well, I feel like there's some question marks over some players in terms of when I say I'm not questioning their talent, but it's just how they haven't had to deal with this talent leaving. Like Cleary's always had Jerome Luai at six. Okay, how does he then play?
Yeah, who does he
What
go to if he's struggling a little bit
Well,
or
what does his game now
getting
look like?
marked?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
does his game now look like? What does Isaiah Yo's game look like now without Jerome Luai? Dylan Edwards, how does he
Mm.
change the way he chimes in? Are they going to redo their attack? These are questions that I'm actually really looking forward to sort of finding out over the coming sort of weeks and months into the season. I reckon I feel like they're going to address them. No, I'm not worried about it, but I'm just saying these are question marks that they haven't had to answer
Mm.
previously. Like I think we're underplaying how big of a loss Luai is and how much he contributed to the success. Like everyone, goes on about Cleary and Edwards and Yo, and rightly so, but was Jerome Luai the glue that really stuck that whole system and that team together? I don't know. These are questions we're going to answer.
Well, here's a little bit of extra fuel to the fire or a little bit of salt and pepper to the steak. They have 2 5-day turnarounds this year, as opposed to most teams having one or the NRL average being one. They no longer have a home ground.
Oh, yeah.
So it is under renovation. They'll be playing their home games out of Combank. They also have one international game, assuming that's in New Zealand. They have 4 interstate games, which is a lot less than the NRL average. So they don't have to go interstate many times, 4 times for the whole year.
Yep.
Once obviously being to New Zealand, but they do play the Storm twice. Outside playing the Storm twice, their draws like relatively okay, but distance travelled for them this year is 25% more than the NRL average.
Mm.
So what bearing that has on the team is,
Yep.
I guess, the next question. That we kind of want answered there. What's your? Let's put you on the spot again, Dicko. I love doing this.
Question
They're
without
going to
notice.
have to be a breakout player for the side. Who is going to be that breakout player for the side?
Just looking at the team list or their predicted 17. I don't know whether they can have a breakout player, but I'm expecting. I'm expecting a lot. So they've gone out and signed Isaiah Papali'i, right, from Parramatta. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry, from the Tigers, who was at a Parramatta originally, and I thought he was brilliant at Parramatta. And I feel like them going out and signing him, they're expecting a lot from him.
Mm.
So in a predicted 17 that I'm looking at right now, they actually have him in the back row and pushing Liam Martin to front row,
Okay.
which I
I don't
wouldn't do.
mind.
I wouldn't do that personally. I think Lindsay Smith has to play front row. Surely he
Well,
plays
it's a
for
bit of a
Australia,
weird
for
one,
God's
isn't it?
sake.
Because James Fisher-Harris is gone, right?
Mm,
And they don't have your typical, let's call it sort of ball running straight line back rowers. They
mm,
like to go out wide and throw a lot of their outside backs under, including, their second rowers and centers. They do that play nearly every set. It's from me watching them every week. It's very predictable, but for some reason, teams still haven't worked it out. Hopefully, one day they will. Otherwise, it will go 5 in a row. But the you've got Isaiah Papali'i, who he's got a typical middle style of footy. Liam
mm.
Martin kind of does have a middle style of footy as well. However, Cleary just sort of has been unlocking him a little bit. And without Cleary there, I question Liam Martin whether he'd be the player that he actually is today. No offense to Liam Martin because he's a goer. And then you've got the likes of Lindsay Smith, who is the obvious one to sort of fill those shoes, but where does the backup and the impact come from off the bench? Because you're not going to
Mm.
get that out of your Matt Eisenhuths.
No, that's right. That's what I mean. That's why it's
Yeah.
depth and squad tested. This is what I'm saying. Like I don't know whether they have that squad depth to be able to cover that if there is loss of form or injuries.
All right. Well, let's go out on a whim here, mate. What's your prediction? Top four, bottom half, or top eight?
I think. No, this will be in a prediction on everyone's fully fit. I'm
Yes.
going to say yes, they will be in the top four, but I will say they will be in the bottom of the top four. Maybe fourth. I've got them.
For the first time in a long time, Dicko. Let's agree.
Oh, we
Lock
finally
in, lock
we
in,
finally agreed on something to
lock
do with the
in,
Panthers.
scraping into the top four.
Scraping into the four.
Scraping
Love
into
it.
the four. All
Love
right.
it.
The Dragons. Now, Dicko, some of the movements of the Dragons in off season, I think it's fantastic. I am extremely bullish on the Dragons. I think they're, when we go to our prediction, a smoky. Not for the premiership, but I almost think they're guaranteed top eight.
Oh,
And that's a big call. They last year shit the bed worse than any team I've ever seen ever in the history of the NRL. They were locked in that top eight and were going absolutely nowhere in superb form, and then just I don't know. Maybe Ben Hunt was already going to the Broncos at that point and just went stuff the Dragons. I don't know what the situation was,
mm,
but
mm.
they just hit a massive brick wall and went absolutely nowhere. They have the second smallest distance traveled in the comp. So the average is 25,000. They travel 13 and have 0 5-day turnarounds.
Yeah, of course they do.
They have 0 5-day turnarounds, and this is the teams they play twice. Not Penrith, not Melbourne. Eels, Sharks, Raiders, Warriors, Bulldogs, Roosters, Rabbitohs, Manly.
Oh, it's still tough.
It's tough, but I mean, let's see what this season entails. But one would suggest if you play the Storm or Penrith, you are pretty much not going to win those games 90% of the time for the last few years, right? This year
Hmm.
could be a completely different story. They only have to play those teams once.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every team plays those teams
Yep.
twice, or at least one of them twice.
Yep.
They have lost some key players, no doubt about it. Ben Hunt, Jack Bird, Zach Lomax being the main ones. They've
Yep.
also lost, sort of an upcoming winger, Savelio Tamales, off to the Raiders, who we've spoken about in a previous episode. They've also lost Max Fairguy to the Dolphins, which is a really interesting sort of shift there. And all the rest of the players are sort of irrelevant. No offense. However, they have picked up Damien Cook, Emre Gula, Clint Gutherson, Valentine Holmes, Lachlan Ilias. Are they a better squad on paper last year than this year, Dicko?
They're a better squad this year than what they were last year. On paper. On paper. Absolutely, on paper. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But my question to you is,
yes,
if they have an injury in the halves, who plays? Who comes in?
That's a very good question. They've got the young lad, and his name completely eludes me at the moment. He played a couple of games towards the back end of last season, while Cole Flanagan was out for biting.
Yeah. So from
but
that,
outside that,
yeah, exactly right. So from that, they've got no cover in the halves of note.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're light on big.
So
time.
you're tipping them for a top 8 smoky.
Yep.
And they've got zero cover in the halves. So they have to have a season where there's no injuries to get anywhere.
Pretty much. Yep, pretty much.
So
yep.
I've got good recruiting is what I will say about the Dragons. But they've recruited players that are unwanted at other clubs and for a variety of reasons.
And they got Atkinson coming, but not till 26.
Yes. So these players that are unwanted at other clubs, Fatala Mariner, Luciano Leilua, they've also, Val Holmes wasn't offered a contract at the Cowboys. Yeah, Clint Gutherson told to leave. Lachlan Ilias. Okay, now why are other clubs letting these guys go? All right. So I think they've recruited well, so I think they're what the Dragons need. But I am going to go out of my way, and I will say they will not make the top 8.
Well, yeah, that's the honour here.
Because I think I said this to you before. When they were making these signings, I thought I didn't like them. I didn't know how to feel about it. I feel like, yes, they're better on paper, but I don't know whether that's going to translate to performance. I really don't. Like, I can't see, if I look at their squad, I don't know how they're beating 9 to 10 other teams that I feel like are better than them.
Yeah, and look, mate, valid point, and this is the beauty of the NRL, isn't it? And having podcasts and shows like this, it creates a lot of debate. And speaking to a number of Dragons fans as well, some are really bullish about this season, others are shitting themselves. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how it goes, but I'm really bullish about it. I have a feeling that the plan is, if all fails in the halves, Clint Gutherson
to 6,
Tyrell Sloan to fullback, or Val Holmes, and Bob's your auntie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If that happens, start flashing the red lights and ringing the alarm bells, because they're in all sorts.
Well, they don't have any depth, mate.
No, but his best position is fullback, and Tyrell Sloan's best position is on the wing. All right. So if that has to happen and Gutherson goes to 5'8", flash the red lights, get the orange lights going as well, because they are in all sorts of trouble.
I think that sometimes teams, like, there's no doubt about it, the best teams have great halves, right? Yeah. I'm not saying they're going to win the comp. However, if I look at the rest of the teams, they may genuinely have potentially the weakest halves pairing in the comp, right? And I'm going out on a whim here to say, pretty much lock them in for top 8 with the shittest, halves comp in the league. And this is going to create great viewing here. But do they need to overplay their hand, or do they just need players who, fair enough, if injuries come, then, you can, put a line through them. But if the injuries don't come, these players particularly Kyle Flanagan and Lockie Ilias, they're very similar players. Like they're quite solid defensively. They're not that flamboyant in attack, but I almost think it could be a positive for them because there's no one there to take their spot. They're not filling in for someone else. Their job's not sort of on the line. They're
Mm,
going to be given
mm,
first crack, and
mm.
it's going to be, boys, let's show us what you're made of. Like
Yep. Yep.
you've promised the world, let's deliver it.
Mm.
Let's really, have a red hot crack. I mean, Lockie Ilias was touted, to be the next best thing at the Rabbitohs, and for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out, right?
Mm.
But does that mean that talent's completely gone? And no. All it could take is Shane Flanagan give him a little bit of
Yeah.
confidence, pat on the back, and
Yep.
you know, Kyle's come from a very similar situation, unwanted at most clubs. Sort of had this daddy son sort of syndrome, which has eluded him a little bit and maybe put a bit of extra pressure on him. But I thought last year, aside from the biting incident, he was actually really good.
I mean, you got to have talent to play in the NRL, right? So I'm not questioning their talent, but for them to go well, I feel like Gutherson, Holmes, Damien Cook have to have career years. And I don't know whether at this stage of their careers, whether they've still got that in them.
Yeah.
Is my parting word on the Dragons.
No, and fair call, mate. Fair call. I guess from my perspective, I've written a few clubs off, so I need to give some a crack.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not going to have a top 8 come end of my predictions.
give the Dragons fans some hope, mate.
Because I've said the Cowboys are gone, the Knights are gone. Another club that we're just about to talk about, gone. So let's see how we go.
Let's see how we go.
All right. Is there a breakout player for the Dragons though? Can you see a player really stepping up? Is there a player to watch? Is there someone that you're really interested to see how they go? It doesn't necessarily have to be a breakout player.
I reckon this year will solidify and he will become one of the best wingers in the competition, Tyrell Sloan. I think his game is suited for wing, not fullback. Not overly, or I should say hesitant in contact. Open space, look out.
Yep. And Shane Flanagan has a knack of bringing the talent out of wings.
And I feel like Shane's taken a bit of a liking to him and wants to really develop him and really push him to a level that, as I said, we'd be up there with some of the best wingers in the competition.
Yeah. Let's not forget to, and he probably won't play this year, and all the best for a speedy recovery. But Cody Ramsey's still there. He's waiting in the wings, and had a few health issues, but he's looking really good.
Yeah.
And he may get a crack towards the back end of the year. We'll soon find out. But I'm rooting for you, Dragons fans. Let's see if you can get the job done.
There's always 26.
Dear oh dear. All right, Rabbitohs, Dicko. The Wayne Bennett factor. He's back. Your favourite bloke on the earth. What do you think about the Rabbitohs? What's your first initial thoughts, first and foremost? Obviously, last year, absolutely horrendous. They're going to want to forget about that. Or maybe Bennett's come in and sort of gone, no, let's really think about what we did wrong last year or what went wrong last year. They had a fair bit go wrong. Let's not beat around the bush between suspensions, injuries, obviously where they sat on the ladder, coach dramas, But one could argue they have a squad on paper to not just make the top 8, but to win the comp.
Oh, you are kidding yourself. Seriously.
You don't think so?
No.
Nah.
They need a lot to go right for the Rabbitohs to go anywhere, right? I've got no doubt their top end talent is very, very good. Very good. Mitchell, Johnston, Graham, White, and Walker. Very good. All right?
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't solved a hooking issue.
Yes.
Untested, untried at this level for a period of time. And the 7, the halfback. Now, the 7 was their issue for the last 2 seasons, wasn't it? They haven't had a 7.
Yeah, they haven't.
Right?
Well,
so,
surprise, surprise.
Yeah, so do I think they will be better than last season? Absolutely, yes. I mean, the Wayne Bennett factor, that's probably in itself 3 or 4 wins.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, they will be better than last season. Are they any chance of winning the comp? No. Will they make the top 8? Oh,
Hey, tell us what you think, Dicko.
if they do, it'll be 7 or 8.
We'll come to your decision towards the back end. Let's just sit on that one. We'll just sit on that one for a little bit.
Again, and also they've got the depth. The clubs that have great depth will win competitions. Look at Penrith.
Mate, they've dead set got the depth of the shell pool I've got in the backyard.
That's exactly right. So they've again, this is what I'm saying. A lot of things have to go right for the Rabbitohs. They've been hammered with injuries and different things for the last couple of seasons. So I hope for the Rabbitohs fans that they have a season where their best players don't get injured. Because if you get, and from all reports, you get an engaged Latrell Mitchell, you get an engaged Jack Whiten and Cody Walker. Yeah, absolutely, they'll do some damage. They'll beat some good teams.
Trell fit is the new slogan.
But their top end is aging. All right. Whiten's not a spring chicken. Cody Walker, these guys, I don't know.
Look, I don't know.
I'm
a little bit with you, mate. I don't really know what to make of them. Let's have a... So they've obviously lost Ilias, we spoke about. Tom Burgess, he's gone over to Super League. Damien Cook's gone. Jacob Gagai's gone. Dean Hawkins, back up. Lockie Ilias, out of favour. Tane Milne, back up. I don't even know who Leon Tahau is. And Isaac Thompson's gone to the Raiders. Again, backup. Like, they've lost a bit of backup players, not key players, aside from Damien Cook. Tom Burgess, obviously, starting front rower. But they have picked up Josh Schuster, who...
But let's face it, which Josh Schuster are you going to get?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
which one's going to turn up?
Same with Bud Sullivan.
Yeah, if anyone's going to get the best out of him, it'll be Wayne.
Now, Cody Walker is also 50-50 to play round 1. And it looks like Bud Sullivan is going to start.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Who have they got round 1?
Round 1, that is a good question. Let's have a look who they have round 1.
Because they could be 0-1.
I think it's the Dolphins. Let me just double check.
Actually, I think you're right.
I think it's the Wayne Bennett.
It's the Wayne reunion.
Round 1. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, look, this is... Let's just spit facts here. Let's really get into the nitty gritty, Dicko, because I'm not a massive fan of the Rabbitohs. Never have been, never will be. Does Wayne Bennett change that? I'm a fan of Wayne Bennett, but they have less travel than the Dragons. They only travel 14,000 kilometers, with the average being 25. Of course they do. No international games. They've got 2 more home games than most other teams. Average amount of not necessarily home games, but sorry, read that wrong. They've got more travel, which doesn't really make sense when you look at distant travelled. They travel 7 times throughout New South Wales. Obviously, they're very close. They're obviously travelling to Allianz or something and not calling it a home game, even though it's the next suburb over. 5-day turnarounds, they've got 2 as opposed to the NRL average of 1.
Yeah.
But they play the Storm twice, the Sharks twice, the Broncos twice, the Bulldogs twice, and the Panthers twice. They are my top 5, just FYI.
Yeah.
Well, how's that top 8 prediction looking?
Yeah,
gurgler, I reckon.
Gone.
See you later.
No,
See you later.
As I said, I feel like they'll be better. I feel like they'll be better, but again,
for them, tough draw.
Yeah, and for them, it's going to be whether they can get their best players staying on the field.
Totally. I
mean, if I'm looking at any other team in the competition, South Sydney are the ones that need their best players to play week in, week out.
Well, they're an interesting team, right? Because if they play to their best of their ability, they can win any game.
They can beat anyone, mate.
Anyone.
Absolutely.
Right?
They beat anyone.
But the problem with Rabbitohs is what Latrell Mitchell's going to turn up, what Josh Schuster's going to turn up. what Cody Walker's going to turn up,
Yep.
what Jack Wyden's going to turn up. They're
Yep.
so inconsistent.
Yep.
And you saw that last year. I mean, they've signed Ewan Aiken. They've signed Lewis Dodd. He's going to be an interesting watch. It seems like he's got the 7 gig.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Wayne didn't even know who he was when he met him, so he's doing well there.
Jamie Humphries, I don't know what the situation is there with Peter Memzellis and Humphries. Humphries is traditionally a half, played a little bit at hooker.
Okay.
I don't actually know. He just looks like the Hulk. Great bod. For anyone out there, aspirations of trying to get fit, just have a look at Jamie Humphries
Yep.
for a bit of inspiration. I don't know where he plays, but they've signed him.
Yeah.
So, that adds obviously a bit of depth in a number of positions, which is handy. Same with Bud Sullivan. He can even play a bit of hooker. But
they're just untried in that position. That's all. It's just.
But imagine if Latrell makes Origin. Like that period for them, they're in serious trouble.
Well, that's right.
Because we've seen without Latrell, they are pretty much nothing.
Yeah, massive question marks for South. I'm really interested to see how they go. As I said, I feel like they'll be better, but I've got a lot of question marks on South Sydney. I'm not sure. This is I've got no idea.
Who's going to be your breakout?
I'm looking for Moali.
Yeah,
to continue on.
Yeah, he was quite strong.
And I want to see. And I thought he was excellent last season. Kaloa Matangi, I thought he was excellent. I want to see his game continue and even go to another level. And I think if it does, he will play State of Origin.
I think if he gets fitter, that's all he needs to do.
Yep. I'm looking for him to continue on his season last year and really sort of solidify himself as one of the best sort of edge middle forwards in the comp.
Look, I'm going to make a big call here. Cam Murray's not a lock.
You'd prefer him to play back row and Kaloa Matangi at 13?
Yep.
Well, he plays back row, State of Origin, and for Australia, so...
I just think...
He's definitely got the agility and the ball running skills.
Yes. I think Cam Murray's got more of that than Koloamatangi, and I think Koloamatangi's stint through them... Don't get me wrong, Cameron Money, great defender.
I mean, I think you could play him anywhere and he'd do well, Cam Murray.
Pound for pound.
Yeah.
But I guess to unlock or free up a little bit of... Because he kind of, when he plays lock, he doesn't play that traditional sort of ball-playing lock that we're used to now. He sort of, runs the ball a little bit more. So he's almost like that, Spencer Lee new X factor. Like, give him a break for 10, 20 minutes either side of halftime and then just, really plug and play,
Yeah.
Get that leg drive going, quick play the ball speed. And, let's see what happens after there.
Yeah.
Let's go to the decision. Where are they finishing? Obviously not the bottom 4. That's pretty
I'm going to get absolutely hammered on socials. I don't have them in the 8. I have them 9th.
Oh, just missed it.
Just missing the 8.
I am going to lock them in
to a top 12.
I was literally about to say 11 or 12.
Yeah.
11 or 12.
Okay. Yeah, I could...
Look, it's harsh. It's a little bit harsh. I'll tell you what. Okay, let's go. On paper, I say anywhere between 6 and 10.
Yep.
Realistically, 9 to 12.
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah.
Because it's impossible for that side to stay fully fit. I mean, Campbell Graham's already injured again, the poor bugger.
Well, so is Cody Walker. He's got soft tissue injuries. Now, if you're getting soft tissue injuries in the preseason, yeah, I'm concerned about whether you're going to be able to run out a full season. So, yeah, that's my concern with them. So, I'd have them anywhere sort of 7, 8, 9, or 10 is where I have them.
Well, there you go, fans. Nostra has spoken, and we will see you all again next week for the Roosters, Warriors, and Tigers.
And enjoy all the rounds of trials.
Yeah, 9 games of footy this week.
9 games of footy. How good.
Let's get excited.
See you next week.